Welcome back, everyone. And Greg,
Hi.
this second half of the episode is about you two. It's about you
Me
to
and
start,
Madeline.
and then we're going to open it up to Madeline and the whole crew.
Sure.
Because I have a fun question for everybody. But it starts off with you, Greg. Of course, in the office, you are known for many of things. Being a great leader, always having a good time, smile on your face, compassionate, smart, sometimes gets a little weird.
A little crazy.
You know what I mean? Sometimes he loves In-N-Out. He likes donuts.
God,
but
I love In-N-Out.
you're also known for certain video games. We call them Greg Ask Greg video games, okay?
That's right, yeah.
Games that make you feel, games
Yeah.
that make you move a certain way, whether that be
Games
like
that literally
emotional.
yesterday had Nick Scarpino walk up to my desk
Yeah.
and start laughing and go, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, games games that sometimes we wonder, are you gaming? You know what I mean? But you know what?
Gaming comes in
They're
all shapes and
video
colors.
games, and they are pretty awesome. And so, Greg, you have a preview of a video game that I would like to talk about with you. Maybe you
Yeah.
can put me and the audience onto, and then we'll have some fun conversations afterward.
Let's talk about Pine. A
Pine.
story of loss. There's a trailer out there in Assets Barrett. Many people will probably remember this being shown and me immediately going, yes, 1,000%, I'm going to be in on this. Your official description reads like this. Alone in the forest glade he shared with his wife, a woodworker wrangles his grief as he tries to accept her passing. In Pine, a story of loss, players will help him hold on to cherished memories of their life together as he struggles to care for himself and his now empty home. Created by professional illustrator from DreamWorks and Nickelodeon, and children's book author Tom Booth. And so you're seeing it here, and of course, that's what immediately struck us, I think, when we saw this in, I forget what showcase. I think it's
Yeah.
been in a couple of them,
Okay.
but how striking the art style is. And then, yes, when you are going to talk about a dead wife, when you're going to talk about grief, you know I'm going to eat that shit up
about
and be
feelings.
like, yeah, give me a bunch of hours of that, Blessing. Make me fucking feel. My life's too perfect.
Does she have to be dead?
You know what? I was hoping for a twist at some point. Maybe she just left. You know what I mean? She was like, you know what? Living in the woods like an idiot, not what I want. But no, she's fucking dead as a doornail. I had been looking for this. They hit me up and were like, hey, do you want a preview code for Pine, A Story of Loss? And I said, you bet your bottom dollar I do. Pine, A Story of Loss is, of course, developed by Made Up Games, published by Fellow Traveler. It is coming out sometime in Q4 2024. And so we aren't there yet. We don't know what that date is. I am sad to report I did not enjoy Pine, A Story of Loss.
Okay.
I feel like, again, this is such a Greg game. This is right up my alley. Let's go for the feels. Let's go for the emotions. And while it is gorgeous, I think if you look at that trailer right there, the art style is amazing. It is well done by Tom Booth there. I think it lacks in gameplay. And I know that's goofy because, again, we're talking about walking simulators. You're talking about whatever.
Story, yeah.
But what I would jump into is like, I feel like this game is very much trying to be Florence and hit on that level and have that kind of emotional resonance, but it doesn't have the gameplay that Florence did. I don't think back to Florence and be like, oh man, what a great gameplay experience. But I remember the little puzzles of organization and then taking things apart and yada yada. Like, I got what they were going. They were quick. They were fast. I was enjoying it. What Pine does, I think the cardinal sin of Pine is that in its desire to show you how mundane and empty this man's life is without his wife,
yes.
it makes it feel it is a mundane video game from what I've played in this
Okay.
preview. You are doing the same things over and over again. You saw you're going out there, you're chopping wood, you're gardening, you're pumping water, you're fixing your roof. But the problem is it's literally you do that every day after day, every day for a while and come back and it's like, I get it. I understand what you're trying to have me do here in terms of oh yes, he's just he's living, but he's surviving, but he's not living.
Yeah,
Kind
of course.
You know what I mean? And it's very much, they make you do it too much where I was like, I don't even want to continue doing this. I was playing on Steam Deck, but with a controller, I was putting it onto the TV. So I'm hoping that on iOS, the controls might make it a bit more enjoyable. But right there, as you see, the idea is that you go out, you do these mundane tasks, and then something triggers in his everyday existence that reminds him of his wife. You play a mini game that can be a whole bunch of different things. I don't want to spoil too many of them, but there's a rhythm game with sticks at one point. There's music scales with a wood chime. There's these little things that are custom for the memory you're having, and then you go in and you carve out the little statue you're going to make to honor your wife there, as you saw many times, and you see him putting up one there. This carving tactic is the exact same thing of just being too mundane. It's just too much over and over again. I'm going through it. it should be like 3 or 4 cuts, I feel, and then it does it on its own of what it's going to be, instead of me constantly rotating, like, all right, where is the spot they want me to still chop off of this thing? I think on iOS it might feel better. I am holding out hope for that in a final version. Again, this is a preview, so even the the UI for doing a bunch of this stuff, I'm hoping gets tightened up a bit. I didn't find it impressive. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the woodworking because, again, you go at it with the thing for far too long, and then eventually you do get to a point where it's like, okay, you've taken away enough of the excess that then it does snap into what you wanted it to be. So it's like, why not do that minutes earlier to have me do this? I feel like the pacing is just all wrong.
Do you feel like it'd be served better as just an animated short?
I do. There's nothing in here that makes me go, man, playing this is really making me feel like I'm this guy or really get in there. At the end, of course, like, you know what I mean? When we get to the kicker of what the finale of the game is, I feel like it does tug at your heartstrings. But at that point, I was so bored and so like, I want to stop playing this and play other things. I want to go spend my time somewhere else, that it didn't resonate at all for me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Similar to Andy's, like, would this be better as like a 30-minute, hour-long experience? You do those tasks once, maybe twice, and then you're out of it. Right?
I don't understand how they didn't like stick to the rule of 3s.
Okay.
Where it's like you go, because and then there's this weird thing where some days you do go out there and it's just a scene of him doing the thing you already did, but then you do it again next. It's like, I don't understand what was going on there. I felt that was a jumble.
How's the music? Because I feel like a lot of times with these types of games, like, you need a really good emotional kind of soundtrack to kind of pull you into it. What's
good.
The audio like?
No, it's good. Again, in a game like this, it all hinges on your emotions and your enjoyment of it. And so the music, I thought, is, I would say, haunting. You know what I mean? It's in the background. It's very soft. It's doing its thing, but it's hitting on the notes it should. But again, I was like, all right, I get it. I know what we're doing. Why am I making this many? Why? No, I just didn't.
So you talk about the gameplay not hitting. How about the story, right? We talk about this music and the story. The art style clearly jumps right off the screen at me.
One thing I do want to pop in, though, sorry, before we get, because I
all
don't want to forget it, and this is something for Andy, I think that would really annoy the fuck out of you. The art style is great in this game, right? But there are things where the characters are talking or moving or whatever, and it's like their neck isn't connected to their shirt, and you can see in the background. So it's like a cell, you know what I mean? And it's like small, but I'm on a monitor, I can see it all or whatever. Whereas I don't think it's a style choice. I feel like it was like, oh, that's not there. And again, this is preview. Maybe this all gets fixed by, review code.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I'm very familiar with Tom Booth's work. I've seen this image of the man carving his wife into this like log or whatever. Yeah. I've seen that piece of art on Instagram a whole bunch of times, and I've seen the other pieces of art that he's done, and they're always fantastic. But I mean, maybe that's like an oversight or something. I was initially going to ask, is it a stylistic choice? But it sounds like
it doesn't feel like it is.
That
like was the thing where it was just like, it seemed like it is a problem. I'm trying to I know exactly when I was just here.
Interesting. Yeah, like zoom in on one of them and it's like, got that. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, he has a whole bunch of stuff on his Instagram.
Instagram's incredible. Beautiful artwork, Andy. Wow, I've never seen this before.
Yeah, he's very good.
Very talented.
Here we go. I think this is probably. Is that the one you want, Andy?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's coming to assets right now. There it is. And I think that's the thing where it's just, I think the game is all style, no substance. And that's a heartbreaker because I wanted so much more from it. And so anyways, to the story, again, for a game like this where you have to be all in on it, I think the story is so, I would say so one note. Like, I gave you the pitch at the top, right? And there's no twist there. When you tell somebody, hey, go play Florence, it's really emotional, whatever, and you see this a drawing of a girl with an umbrella, you don't know what you're getting into. Gone Home, a game I go back to all the time. You jump into Gone Home, you don't know where that story is going to go. I was hoping there would be a left turn, a kicker, something I wasn't expecting in this, and there wasn't. Like, it is what it is. It's that the whole way through. I think it would serve better as an animated short than as a video game.
Is an alien the whole time?
Turns out we were inside a forest preserve.
This episode is brought to you by New World Aeternum. New World Aeternum is a thrilling action RPG experience for console and PC players with a vibrant world, vast and beautiful setting, dynamic real-time action combat, and the freedom for players to choose how to forge their destiny. Combat is skill-based and dynamic, incorporating swords, guns, and sorcery so that you can build one character to rule them all as you explore Aeternum and unravel the mysteries of the supernatural island that you can't leave. You love playing RPGs alone? You can in New World Aeternum, or play cooperatively with your friends as you complete quests, get better gear, and level up. Greg played this at Summer Game Fest on PlayStation 5 and was caught off guard by how much he enjoyed it and how many hours he said he could see himself sinking into the final product. There's boss fights, cool enemies, crossplay, resource gathering, and crafting. So yeah, this sounds like a Greg game. Pre-order New World Aeternum now on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S to get the Azoth Stalker Wolf mount and prepare for launch on October 15th.
Well, I thought it'd be fun to pair up the preview with a fun little topic of discussion for the whole panel because Madeline's here and we got Andy and Bless, who are both emotional guys. They're very in touch with their emotions.
A deep well of emotions, both.
I thought we'd build off of that and talk about games that have moved you or made you cry, made you feel something in the past. And I know, Greg, this is right in your wheelhouse. So
you know I love crying.
We'll probably save you for a minute, but you know what? I'm going to start with Madeline, our guest. Madeline, tell me about a game that moved you or made you cry recently.
This is hard because I have a really long list.
Wow, okay, good. That means it's
I
good.
love a good cry, and I do play a lot of Greg games. So
High five, Madeline. That's what I'm talking about out here.
I think, like, bringing it a little bit back to Pine, which is like there are some games where the gameplay actually shows you a different piece of a story that you wouldn't experience if you were watching it as a movie or a show or something like that. And I think that one of the ones that stuck out to me the most, like there are several, but Life is Strange 2 specifically.
Wow, 2.
Yes,
One we don't hear a lot about here with the brothers.
I want to talk about it because I feel like it's overlooked constantly. And I don't know if that's why that is. I think part of it might have to do with the episodic release schedule because I think a lot of people didn't stick with it. But that game had me crying for like weeks. I would think about it and I would just be so upset because I feel like it helped you experience a story of two brothers, of maybe people who you haven't experienced, or like experiencing hardships, experiencing police brutality, racism. And their story is really powerful. The love of a sibling for another, protecting, kind of like a father and a brother. And I think it was also such an interesting concept that was really poignant, having you protect the person that had the powers, like doing everything that you could to like keep your brother safe, this very special person to you. And then like to go into, I guess, spoilers. I don't know if I should or not.
I think people
Life
play if you.
Yeah.
I actually do want to get back to Life is
Okay,
Strange.
I
Fuck you, Bless. I was thinking about it recently.
I will say this then, even the quote unquote like good ending is like very nobly tragic in a way that you're like, I feel like the game is kind of saying like the position that that these boys have been put into by their life circumstances, like they will never see a happy ending. Being choked up talking about it, but I just think it's really powerful.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Give me another one off your list because I like how you started that. You brought a lot of energy. Give us another one.
Another one. I feel like this is a classic, so it's an easy one, but obviously Telltale's The Walking Dead.
Oh, man.
You like that's a classic because
You want to talk about a fucking game franchise that
Special
just
time.
did more and more disservice to itself by going on.
Yes.
And I enjoyed them, don't get me wrong, but it's like, if you could have just ended and we never came back to Lee and Clem's story, I think we would hold that in such higher regard rather than it be, and then you're playing as Clem. And then you're not playing as Clem, but she pops up. And then you're going to play as Clem one more time. But then there's going to be a graphic novel about Clem. And then it's like, oh, it's okay.
Hard to recapture that magic.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that one, I think like that one took me by such surprise because I think that was around that time I had not been gaming for a while. And that was one of the first things when I was like starting to get back into gaming. And I was like, oh, I'll give this a chance. I like The Walking Dead show. And what a gut punch to get to the end of that and be like, whoa, I was not expecting a game that looked like that to, I don't know. It seemed like The Walking Dead didn't hit me in that same way as the game did. Like I really connected with those two characters being Clem's dad and being there. Can we spoil Walking
Dead season
1?
Bless is like, whoa.
I'm going back.
I'm in episode 4. Lee just got bit.
But like giving her all of the advice as you're passing away and like
Keep
what
that
an
hair short.
emotional moment. Yeah. And you getting to choose that and really being like, what do I want to pass on? It's like such a interesting thing to be dying and like what information do you want to pass on to your children beneath you to keep them safe? Like what an experience you don't really want to have, but you get to have in this moment.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that they loop back around to getting to that emotional place, because I remember playing that and being on episode 2, and they introduced cannibals, and I was like, all right, I know what this is. Like, this is gonna be more of a fucked up, like, there are preconceived notions that you have about that world and those characters based off of the comic, based off of the show, and based off of like where they start that story off in, that I was not expecting to get to episode 4 and 5 and be like, oh man, I really care about Lee and Clementine.
Yeah.
Those are some good ones. I like that.
Thank you.
Let's keep the fun going. Andy, tell me the last time you cried in a video game.
It's so hard to talk about this without spoilers.
Okay.
But I'll just say one of the more recent ones I can remember was the end of Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like
Oh,
that's a
good
good one.
and
Okay.
That's a good one.
just emotions from all sorts of angles. Beautiful shit.
That's good. Yeah.
Music, soundtrack, all that stuff just swelling.
When the claps come in, Andy.
Holy fuck, man. Just
That's cool.
One of them moments.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as the, first time we're jumping into the Zelda series. On that one in particular, having the tears whenever you'd find the little story beats and them actually giving me like more story I could really digest. I really appreciated that because I was buying in more and more. I didn't feel that the first game around where I didn't get those
Same.
moments like I needed.
Yeah, first game I felt really nothing story-wise. Tears was...
Yeah.
It brought the tears. And then I'll go with the first time that I ever cried with a video game. I'll say Mass Effect 3, but I don't want it. It's a character who has a tragic ending. And
I think that's on my list as well.
oh, really?
Yes.
Let me see. Yeah. God damn, man.
Oh.
That's the first time I've ever cried in a video game.
Y'all
I
gotta make better choices.
Huh?
No guide. Nobody died. No guide. Nobody died for me.
No, you're thinking Mass Effect 2.
Oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah, Mass Effect 3. Yeah. God damn. Oof. That's another very, very powerful moment that I think was just so expertly done when it comes to what was happening thematically, music-wise, dialogue-wise. All of that stuff was just so pitch perfect. And I always think about, like, in all the other multiverses where 1 or 2 or 3 things may have not been great about that scene, our multiverse had it, or our universe got the perfect version of that ending.
Blessing.
Yeah, I started writing a bunch down that just like came to mind. Before Your Eyes, was definitely one, right? Like that's a powerful story, especially experiencing it in a way that like is so unique. That
was the VR one that you guys spoke about.
That was the
before?
VR
Yeah,
one
that's
that you
cool.
play by, or you like forward certain sections by blinking. Blinking is like the main mechanic of it.
Important to point out, it is a VR one, but you can play it on Netflix. That's where it was
yeah.
before it was VR. It's a Steam game. It's a Netflix game. Highly, highly, highly recommended.
Yeah.
Still good on Netflix as opposed to the VR and having a different kind of.
I never finished it on Netflix, but I mean, if you remember when it did drop, so many people had it on Game of the Year list and everything else.
Okay.
They loved it. Janet swore by it, so I have to imagine,
Cool.
it still rocks.
Chicory is another one. That's a story that gets into like imposter syndrome and like self-confidence, how you feel about your own self-worth and your own abilities to perform and all these things in ways that like definitely got me. And yeah, like I love the vibe of that one. There's like, I think video games have such a cool ability to combine like having a really unique art style with like, characters that you don't necessarily expect to vibe with in that way. Like Chicory is a game that is a coloring book essentially where you're playing as like I think like a dog.
Yep.
Like a little,
Yes.
little dog creature. So I'm not expecting to get emotional playing this fucking video game. But by the time you get towards the end and you get further into that story, it's like, oh no, this is really special. Persona 5 Royal specifically, Barrett knows that when they add in the character Maruki, there's a storyline there that I think is super powerful and super
One
good.
of the greatest fictional characters of all time.
Yeah. Undertale is another one. Again, for reasons that people know, right? Of like just an emotional story that is super unique, that is combining like having good music, good arcs, characters that care and that are pure and all these things. Also characters that are evil, but like, Undertale being another one. Nier Automata is on that list for a lot of the themes tackled and like where that story goes and when you get to later endings. And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one that I added here where there are character moments in that game that I think are just super powerful. And I'd remake to that list also as well.
Yeah.
Add 16, man. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow,
Final-
near the end of 16.
The recent Final Fantasies have been in their bag as far as like being able to hit you with those emotional moments. And remake, the one I always go back to specifically is like when the spoilers for remake, which are really spoilers for original Final Fantasy 7 in the first like 7 hours of Final Fantasy 7, when the play's falling, and like, you know, there are scenes with the character Barrett where he is like looking for his daughter, and there's emotion that he's conveying, that I'm like, man, I can't believe video games have gotten to this point where like I'm looking at this character's face and I can feel the emotion that is being portrayed here so strongly.
You bringing up the chicory thing also kind of reminds me of Celeste.
Oh, Celeste.
Such a simple art style, and by the end of it, you're just like, I'm crying at this little character who's made up of 8 blocks of pixels. Like, this is absolutely nuts. The amount of storytelling that they do in that game.
Those are really good, Bless. I like those.
What about you?
You know, for me, Greg Miller, when I get a tear to my
Texas
eye,
Chainsaw Massacre.
I think about
Chained together when we fell from the top.
I think about clutching up
Hood
just hot,
Outlaws and
sweaty
Legends.
moments in Call of Duty Warzone. It's me, it's Andy, it's Chris Senka, it's Nick Scarpino, usually dead, asking for a revive.
Yeah.
And it's like those moments of buildup of tension.
How did I
Where's
fucking
the
die? Well, 3
squad
people were
gonna
looking
go?
at you, Nick. Yeah.
Am I throwing a smoke grenade to give away our position, but also cover us to move? Do they have
emotional.
the high ground, right? Like, there's this vibe of like the buildup and then the payoff of winning.
You're making
it's
me
just
tear up,
beautiful.
bro.
And like that,
It's a beautiful
that
thing.
hits. You know what I mean? That hits me deep down in my heart.
Drop in hospital in Verdansk, like, brings a tear to my eye.
And the
every day.
circle comes your way, and you're like, is the circle gonna favor
We're
us
being
right
blessed. We're being blessed.
now? The circle favors you and you have the high ground, or the circle doesn't. You have to make a move out of that, and you're running up the hills, and people are shooting at you. You're like, oh my God, we're not going to make it. But then we win, and we all attach ourselves onto the helicopter in the worst cutscene ever. And then
The
it's
worst
like,
cutscene
it's
ever.
the best, man. I
Yeah.
love that game so much. Another one I think about is when
Until Dawn, when the pizza came cheese.
that one rocked me to my core.
Yeah.
I think about Master Chief giving the Covenant back their bomb
Oh,
in Halo
man.
2. Like, that's one of those moments where
Send it back to him,
Cortana, you know, the
Return to
keys are
sender.
talking to him, and it's like, oh shit, he's flying through space right now with a bomb, and the man is just holding on.
crazy.
It's like some of the most beautiful moments of my life. And on the real one,
So McTavish.
the
real one.
Frank Woods. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I love those guys.
kidding
Captain
me?
Price.
Man.
Those are some of my favorite moments there. Greg, give me a couple ones that made you cry.
I feel like this stems so much from me talking on podcasts for years that
Yeah.
I'm a waste of space on it, right?
I
Of course, Gone Home, of course,
Yeah.
Before Your Eyes, where I took the thing off, and Nick's like, "Are you okay?" I've just been bawling in a VR headset, right? Ragnarok, both in
Yes.
the moments of in the very beginning, the moment in the very beginning that would make you cry, and especially would make Greg Miller cry, and then at the end, you know, Kratos and Atreus just talking in the tent. You know what I mean? Leave it at that kind of stuff. Like, you know, it's the stuff you'd expect. I'm very vocal about crying all the time in video games. So,
I love
Florence, yeah, I think I cried on a plane playing that one.
I'm surprised no one said any Last of Us 1 or 2. Those are
Yeah. I would say-
emotional. I cried during both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember. I don't remember crying, but I remember how
Henry,
much the opening hurt. You know what I mean?
I think
Of Last of
when
Us
I
1.
played Last of Us 1, how old was I? That was 2013, right? I think I must
You
have
were
been
19.
19. How the fuck did you know
Damn,
that?
he knows your age. He knows it.
I think
Okay,
it more,
here's my
he's got
because
your-
I know I was 18 and you're a year older than
Oh,
me.
sorry. Okay.
I think it just
Wait, are you tracking me?
a lot of those sad moments just kind of hit me more with like shock.
Yeah.
And you know, where you just kind of sit there where you know, I can think of a couple moments I definitely teared up in The Last of Us, but it's more of like the holy, like I'm sad, but I'm also just like kind of shell shocked by
Yeah.
what I just experienced.
I
yeah.
think the reason I asked how old I was because I think when I was younger, I don't think I was as open to the idea of emotion. Like I think at 19,
No,
I'm-
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
playing a video game, I'm playing Last of Us as a I know it's not zombie, but as a zombie video game, right? And so I'm like, cool, let's fucking lock in. And they're getting to these like story stuff where I'm like, oh, that's pretty powerful, and I just move on to the next thing. Where now, if I think I'm way more likely to cry. I think replaying Last of Us and like I think being more open to like, you know, where it's taking its themes and stuff. Like I think there's as an adult, I'm way more likely to cry at a video game than when I was younger.